Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala syarafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah, in the previous video we have explained the nature of fitrah and how we can harness the nature of fitrah in developing our inner speech so that it become more positive, and how this inner speech in relation to our all the positive influences in this world and the negative influences in this world that is within ourselves, within our spiritual, emotional and mental self, and the external influences of this universe, from the realm of the divine, from the realm of the malaika, from other realm, all right, and the realm of the evil and the waswasa. So all these component makes up our automatic thoughts or our inner speech. And as mentioned earlier on, always remember, as long that inner speech, negative inner speech or automatic thoughts or evil prompting self that you are receiving from the perspective of nafsul ammara or the waswasa from shaitan, these are external influences. Even though it is internalized in your cognitive self, that means it's internalized in your brain, because the repetitive cycle of automatic thoughts or inner speech is repeated over and over again, and you get about 50,000 of those kind of thoughts, which is repeated over and over and over again. And as I mentioned, these come from your influences in terms of your physical and social, inter-social environment from the day you're born until the day you leave this earth. It is continuously impinging into your total self, that is your spiritual, emotional and mental and physical self. But the cognitive self, your neurons, your frontal cortex, your limbic system is all being influenced, and this automatic thoughts is then becoming a generative, like an old film that is playing on and on and on and on and on, and you seems that you are losing control. So this is because you tend to stress out. So that's why the first principles always go back. Any automatic thoughts, as long they are thoughts, remember this, and any inner speech, as long they're just some rambling of whatever is negative, it is not a sin yet. You are created pure, clean and fitrah. And because of that, we can then find a way of overcoming this problem. And Aaron Beck in CBT, he has explained in detail, but I'm just going to take from our book some summary of what he has said. This is our book, Positive Islamic Psychology, a transcendent model to achieve peace, happiness and success in the 21st century. And we have one chapter on Pi-CBT, which you can use. Also, some summary of the idea of CBT, because Pi-CBT relies quite a lot of research on CBT, because we are going at another level. That means we are not only the mental and physical interaction within your cognitive self, within your brain and your physical body, or at MCBT between your brain, mind and your physical body, but we are talking about your qalb and your spirit, roh. So you have your roh, your qalb, your akal and your jasad, all as one system of existence. Okay, so from CBT, what does Aaron Beck says? Okay, all right. Beck theory of depression includes three main components. The first component, A, is negative automatic thoughts, and I have dwelled on this automatic thoughts, which we call inner speech, in our Pi-CBT, because that is a far better terminology than just automatic thoughts, because inner speech is something that is internalized, that you can then control and redirect according to the methodology within Pi-CBT. So first is automatic negative thoughts, B is depressive schemata, and C, logical error in thinking. So these are the three main components of Beck's CBT approach. So for automatic thoughts, what does he say? Thoughts are, or mental reflexes that just pop into the head or come out of the blue without being in the forefront of our mind. We may automatically accept them even though they are distorted or irrational. One negative idea is amplified, then it becomes another idea. Beck described this depression as a cognitive trait. One component can reinforce the other. For example, a negative view of the self first. For example, I'm a failure. A negative view of the world, or this city or this place is terrible, and a negative view of the future. There's no prospect or no hope for me in the future. So these three ideas will then develop the second link to this, that is your depressive schemata. So what does Becks say? Any negative or dysfunctional thoughts and feelings we develop about ourselves early in our life are reflected in this schemata, the building block of our cognition. Schemata are sets of attitude or assumptions which shape our beliefs about others, about ourselves, and about the world. We have schemata about everything, and none are more important than those relating to our self-system. That means our self-esteem, self-awareness, self-image, self-blame, and so on. The origin of our schemata will date back to our childhood and the relationship we had with our parents, family, classmates, and the society, and other people who are prominent in our life. They may change throughout life, but the old ones never completely disappear, and they may re-emerge as a result of stress. How do we interpret these relationships and what they say about us? How do we put together the mental bricks that make up our schemata? We usually regard our schemata as statements of facts. They produce our core belief, which may be positive or negative. Once activated, a negative core belief can produce a cognitive shift away from the positive. What this means is that the susceptible individual begin to distort incoming information to fit into their negative schemata. So the aim, according to Becks, of CBT is to challenge any false assumption and change an anxious or wrong self-schema into a healthy one. So that is a transformation they're talking about. All right. And then C is this logical error in thinking. In terms of Becks describe them, there are many categories, and I'm going to explain to you some of those categories of the logical error in thinking, like arbitrary inference, selective abstraction, overgeneralization, and etc., magnification and others. So those are those ideas, the three core pillars of Becks CBT. So within that, the schemata that we are talking about, the thinking style that is within the inner speech, could be built because of the negative schema or the building block that Becks says. There could be many. All right. So for example, what are those unhelpful thinking style? One, all or nothing thinking. That means we are thinking about ourselves. All right. Sometimes called black or white thinking. If I'm not perfect, I had failed. Either I do it right or do not do at all. So this is this kind of very, very so-called perfectionist type of idea, and in the end it ends up in failure. This is unhelpful. This is also unhelpful thinking, and also this could be part of this inner speech of that person. Continuously thinking, all right, it is either black or white. There's no gray in his system of inner speech. All right. Then we have the second one, mental filter, only paying attention to certain types of evidence. Noticing our failures but not seeing our success. So we always see the failures in our life, but we're not seeing our success. So again, we filter our thinking from the negative perspective. We may be highly successful in certain areas of life, but we negate that success and only say, oh, I'm a bad provider for my family. I could not, for example, I could not give my family a wonderful life, having bungalow or beautiful car or something. Whereas maybe he is just a small businessman. His children are growing up well. He has a wonderful relationship with his wife and children, and he has enough to feed them, and they are having a decent life. But because of his mental filter that he sees himself only to the failure to provide more, to go for holidays and things like other people, then he filters it through his negative mental filter. Number 3 is jumping to conclusion. There are 2 keys of jumping to conclusion. One is mind reading. Before something happens, you start seeing the outcome which is negative. Okay? For example, imagining we know what others are thinking about us. That is wrong, because we do not know how the other person is thinking about us. So that will lead to a lot of quarrel, a lot of problems in terms of personal relationship. Or fortune telling, predicting the future. Oh, my life is terrible, so in future I'll be worse. I end up, all kind of thing. And some of them lead to this projection of suicidal thoughts. All right? So this is the problem. The next one is emotional reasoning, assuming that because we feel a certain way that it must be true. So because we feel that way, it must be true. For example, I feel embarrassed, so I must be an idiot. So this is where you negate your self-capacity, capability, and you become self-blaming. The next one is labeling. Assigning labels to ourselves and other people. For example, you label yourself, oh, I'm a loser in life, or I'm completely useless, or other people, they're such a stupid people, or they're such an idiot, so thinking that we are the only one that's right, okay? The next one is overgeneralization. Everything is always rubbish. Nothing good ever happen. So this is where they overgeneralize. Seeing a pattern based upon a single event or being overly broad in the conclusion that we draw. Okay, we overgeneralize. So as a result, it becomes very, very negative. A lifestyle that only perpetuates this overgeneralized thinking. The next one is disqualifying the positive. Discounting the good that had happened or that you have done for some reason or another. So even though you do good, you discount that. You don't tend to take this as part of your self-esteem development. The next one is magnification, catastrophizing, and minimalization. Blowing things out of proportion. Even a small thing, you blow it out of proportion. This is always the problem within husband-wife relationship. You can see they magnify one negative thing and it becomes blown up, and when they go to the courts, you ask them, what is the root cause of this divorce? It just could be a glass of water. Which is this is what happened many times in life. So they over magnify or appropriately shrinking, or sometimes making it less important, something that's important, or something that's less important, making it such a huge hue and cry. The next type is this must should mentality. Should, must, using critical words like should, must, or ought to make ourselves feel guilty or like that we have failed in life. If we apply shoulds to other people, the result is often frustration. All right. The next one is personalization. This is my fault. Blaming yourself or taking responsibility for something that wasn't completely your fault. Conversely, blaming other people for something that wasn't their fault. So this is the blame game that is being played. So those are some areas of this schema, as well as negative error in thinking, the negative error in thinking that become, if it's allowed to grow, become part of your automatic thoughts and inner speech. So if we can then detect where we fall, that means one tool that we can use generally is, am I doing this all or nothing, or am I having this mental filter, or am I always use the word should or must or ought for ourselves and others, or is this my fault or their fault? So these are basic techniques which you can apply in Pi-CBT, and this little chart from psychologytools.com, you can download it and then you can stick it on your fridge, and then ask yourself, do you have any of these things that is affecting your cognitive self, your self-esteem, your self-worth, that's affecting your life, that's affecting your ability to succeed, that's affecting your ability to have relationship with other people? And it's a very simple tool, a simple graphical thing that you can stick on the fridge and use it as one of the tools. So based on this, we should understand how Becks understood this whole idea of the cognitive trait of depression and other psychological problems. And from then, inshallah, I will develop further, giving you more tools of how we can actually utilize this basis of CBT to become Pi-CBT, inshallah, with a very much more depth and holistic approach, which we can, inshallah, will help to overcome the problems of the psychological problems of the Ummah, the 1.7 billion Muslims in the world, as well as help others to work out on a more transcendent, holistic model of psychological challenges that we are facing, inshallah.